Okay, this is part 2 on the Vox Pathfinder 15R channel of documenting this Dagnall 18 watt Marshall output transformer. And where the part 1, where my camera cut out on me, I was finishing up right here on the 6.4 volt AC signal injection, and I came up with an impedance ratio of 1100, 71 ohms. And then I turned up the variac a little more, got this signal, and got 7.1 volts across the orange common and the yellow tap. And across the primary side of the output transformer, I got a voltage reading of 239 volts, which gave me a turns ratio of 33.6. And this, as you notice, when you start at 1.3 volts all the way to 7.1, after about 5 volts, it starts to converge to a single number. And thus, the impedance ratio, which started out at like 1900 ohms, or if I had the ability to put 1 volt in, it'd probably be 2000 ohms. It started to converge around here, this area, where now we're getting where we thought at this point, had we stopped here, we would say, oh, this is a 4 ohm tap, because we would have gone like this in our minds. We would have said, okay, well, it's got 1909 ohms impedance, multiplied by a 4 ohm speaker, and you say, oh yeah, that's about right. 7.6K output transformer. But as I turned the signal voltage injection into the secondary side, I ended up at this point with 1133 ohms. Now if we take that, okay, now it looks more like an 8 ohm tap, because we multiply by 8. And the reason why I say that is because typical amplifier building, tradition has, output OTs at 8K for a dual EL84 amplifier. That's what those tubes like to see. So we multiply that by 8 and we get 9064. Interestingly enough, if you look at the spec sheet for Mercury Magnetics for their tone clone, that's not on here. Let's see, maybe I have it somewhere else. I probably don't, but it's not there. No, it was on Tube Amp Doctor site, where they had their replacement output transformer for this model, and they show it as a 9.2K output impedance transformer. So I thought that was interesting. I'd be interested in knowing the physics. So I've seen other people on YouTube do this sort of stuff, like Uncle Doug, D-Lab, and other guys, El Paso tubes. But I never remembered this detail, where, depending on the injection voltage, you're trying to find the ratio from the secondary to the primary side, that the results you get could be very skewed. So, I mean, here, a transformer, has physical wire wounds around the bobbin that can't change. But here, if you do the math, you measure the AC voltages and you do the math, and it'll lead you to believe that your turns ratio was approximately 44 turns, when it's perhaps closer to 33, 34 turns. And that's a big gap, it's a big change. I mean, that's way off. Those two numbers are way off from each other. Interesting. So, as I said, I'm taking the yellow wire. What I found also fascinating is that this Mercury Magnetics spec for their tone clone of the The replacement has the yellow as the 8 ohm tap, which is what I indeed found out here. Not an 8K impedance transformer, at least for this tap. It's closer to like 9.1K. Okay, so that's been the Vox Pathfinder 15R channel, and I hope that was interesting to some of you. Thanks again for tuning in.